Hey everyone, and welcome back to episode 10 of Welcome to the Dark Sun, also known as the one where death became a very real thing. I'm not gonna lie, I think this was my fault because my first note before we start playing was, wow, it's been 12 weeks of play, because I did miss 2 weeks, and no one has died for real. And then a few people came very close to dying for real, so that's on me, and I'm sorry, players. But, spoiler alert, nobody actually died. In fact, I don't think anybody even hit 0 HP. It was close, especially for Vashti, but we all managed to make it through unscathed enough. Also, if you're wondering, I am wearing a blanket because my new filming setup is in the garage, and I live in Canada, and it is very cold. When summer comes, we'll be good, but for now, whew. So for this session, we were supposed to have a full table, which is 6 players, but at the last minute, 2 of them canceled, so we ended up being without Dono or Drudok, which means that we had Salentithius, Vashti, Nibbles, and Bardock to go on this adventure. If you saw last session, which is linked down below, you might remember that we got back our custom painted chariots last time. Well, Dono had pulled a fast one on Bardock and had a very legendary mural of him painted on the one side. And Bardock wasn't very happy about that, as one might imagine. If you know Bardock at all from any of these sessions, you'll know that he is unfailingly in love with King Calic. And so for there to be an elf, which he hates, on the side of his chariot that prominently displays King Calic's portrait on the front was just not happening. So in good news, because there was only 4 of us going out, we only needed 2 chariots. So he dropped off his chariot with the dwarf and Natu, who did the painting on the other ones, and said, hey, can you replace this elf with a flag, please? A Tyrian flag. So should be interesting when Dono shows back up and sees what happened. And it's just such a jerk move, especially because he wasn't there. Like, we joked that it was gonna happen, but for it to be like right off the bat, it's kind of really funny, but also such a jerk move. Once we had, you know, the important things sorted out, we decided to go on a quest. The quest that we chose to take was Dasari's quest, which was going to go find a caravan of hers that had gone missing. And it's one that has been kicking around for a couple weeks, so we figured we should take care of it now. So we met up with Dasari, we asked her the details about it, and she said that she had a caravan that was filled with olive oil and painted pottery, and it was leaving Balak, coming to Tyr through Alterac. I believe it was about a week late getting to Tyr, so we decided that the first place to go would be Alterac and see if they had even made it to that city. Once we had all the information, we bought rations, all that fun stuff, and we jumped in our 2 chariots, Salentithius and Nibbles in one, and Vashti and Bardock in the other, and we headed out towards Alterac. On our first day out, we were going along the road, and all of a sudden up ahead of us were a bunch of random people. It was mostly Mauls, humans, and dwarves, and when they saw us coming in our chariots, they moved well off to the side of the road. Instead of going right past them, we decided to slow down and see what was going on. They were all dressed in raggedy clothes, and they really didn't seem like they wanted to chat with us. They were staying all huddled together, except for one guy who came forward when Bardock started to address them. Turns out they were slaves who had escaped, and they were trekking through the desert to get to this place they had heard of called Freedom, which was a cave system that had been founded by slaves. Now, if you remember a couple sessions back, we found a cave system, and then we found some slaves, and we brought the slaves to the cave system. We had a different name for it, but they since renamed it to Freedom, which is a much nicer name, believe me. Because we're only occasionally really terrible people, we decided to help these former slaves out. Vashti gave them some extra weapons that she had, Bardock supplied some water and some good berries, and then the rest of us kind of kicked in anything else they would need so that they could get to Freedom, hopefully without any trouble. In exchange for us helping them, they gave us this papyrus scroll that they had, and after we sat on it and figured out what it was a scroll of haste, which, you know, always good to have extra magic. That night we made camp, and during the night a huge sandstorm came in, so we ended up kind of buckling down for a couple days, did the best we could to protect ourselves and our Crodlu, and then the next day we uncovered everything and dug the chariots out, but we were able to get back on our way. And then naturally there was an earthquake, and of course Salentithius didn't make us save. In fact, Salentithius, or myself depending, could not roll a single dice to save anybody's life yesterday. every single D20 came up as a 2. It was ridiculous. It didn't matter which one I used. It didn't matter if I stuck with the same one. Everything was a 2. Always fun. But after the earthquake, besides taking a little bit of damage, we were all good and we headed on our way. Pretty quickly after we started on our way, there were a couple rolling cactuses coming towards us, and well, Salentithius and his cacti, he just took off with the chariot like double speed, because you don't trust cacti. You just don't. Finally, we caught up to a pretty large caravan on our way. They were also heading to Alterac, and they asked us if we wanted to ride with them. We were of the mindset, are you gonna pay us for protection? They said no, so we just continued on because we could move a lot faster than they could. And then a little ways down the road, we ran into a bunch of Orpsu, which are basically like flying manta rays with horns, I guess, and then obviously the tail. And there were 12 of them, and they were very mean. I think Vashti got double crit here, and Nibbles also took a crit. Like, it was not a good situation. Basically, as soon as we got a chance, the chariot drivers, being myself, Salentithius, and Vashti, just took off at double speed. And the Orpsu couldn't catch us, so pretty soon all was well in our books. We started to head up to Alterac after that, and when we were pretty close to the city, a bunch of mercenaries were on our way. And they were like, listen, we're protecting the city. If you want to get through, you have to pay 1 gold piece per head, including your beasts of burden, which would have worked out to like 8 GP for all of us, which that's just highway robbery. We talked about potentially fighting them, and then we decided to be a little bit more diplomatic, and we asked them if they had seen the caravan that we were looking for. Because the city deals in a lot of trade, there were a ton of caravans, but fortunately we had talked to Dasari and we had a lot of information, and the mercenaries were able to tell us that yes, they had seen them leave about a week and a half ago from the city. We also asked them what beast of burden was carrying the caravan, because Bardock has that cool ritual where he can suss out an animal within 5 miles, and so we knew they were supposed to have a kink. So we went down to the base of the mountain, got away from Alterac just in case there were kinks there, and the next morning he did the ritual. Couldn't find anything. We figured that they had probably left the road because obviously we didn't see them on the road, and we figured out that the easiest direction for them to go would have been south, so we also headed off south, just kind of hoping for the best. We quickly came across a pretty huge wall of brambleweed, which if you don't know what it is, it's terrible. It's like if you look at it wrong, you're gonna take like a D100 of damage. Okay, maybe not quite. That's if you want to try to go through it, but why would you want to try to go through it? So we kept that to our right, and we just kind of kept heading down this way, hoping that we'd come across the caravan. And as we were going, a sandstorm picked up, which is always great, because like, let's be off path and also have a sandstorm and these brambleweeds that want to kill us. But eventually we did come across the caravan. It was tipped over to the side, looked like it had been looted, and it was completely abandoned. I stayed in the chariot because, I don't know, Salentithius wasn't particularly interested in checking everything out, and everybody else got out and started to wander around the ruins, seeing if we could figure out what happened to the drivers. And then all of a sudden, 6 weird crocodile-like hobbit creature things popped out of the sand. They're also known as silt runners. And let me tell you, they are jerks. Well, I guess they were jerks to my friends because I stayed in the chariot, and thri-kreen have really high AC as it is, plus my dex, and I'm a rogue, so that's crazy, +2 for being in the chariot, so they couldn't hit me, which was really awesome. I couldn't hit them either, so it kind of balanced out, but at least I was keeping a couple of them off my friends. Bardock used Landstrider to just walk right into the brambleweed, which was pretty hilarious because then nobody could get to him. And one of the stupid ones was like, I need to chase him, and ran in, and man, took like 64 points of damage on that. So it was a very good tactic. A tactic that Vashti then employed to kind of do the same thing. Instead of running into the brambles, because obviously she couldn't do that, she grappled one of them and threw them into the brambles, and they took a solid 50 points of damage as well. So it was pretty awesome how we were able to use the environment to kind of take care of things. When Bardock had gone through the brambleweeds, he ended up going to the other side, and he found this abandoned base of a tower, and in those ruins were another 6 silt runners, a half giant, and our drivers that we were looking for. So after we finished this first battle, Bardock came back, explained the situation to us, and we figured out a course of action. Bardock and Sal stayed back with the caravan while the other 2 went around in the chariot, because obviously the brambleweeds end it because these guys were getting there. And once everybody got close, Bardock walked through the brambleweeds and Salantithius jumped from the top of the caravan over top of them. So it was like surprise attack from the air. But I don't think we were really that surprising. This battle started to go south really fast because there was a half giant and there were all these stupid silt runners and nobody had thought to rest between the fights. Well, I'd actually thought to rest, but I figured that they would be coming around to take care of the caravan and figured out what happened to their friends, so I didn't think we'd actually get a rest, so what was the point in suggesting it? So instead, half injured, we went into this battle, and Vashti was hurting pretty quickly, and Nibbles was hurting pretty quickly, and I tried to get in between them like, hey guys, stand behind me, I can tank some shots, and that didn't make a difference. But what did make a difference was Nibbles was able to knock the half giant prone because he was going to be the biggest problem. And then Bardock got a hold person on him. And that made all the difference in the world because once he was on the ground and held, Vashti cast Cloud of Daggers around him, and anytime you start a turn in that Cloud of Daggers, you take damage. So as long as he couldn't move, he was constantly taking that damage, which was amazing. And Bardock stayed in the brambles so nobody could hit him to destroy his concentration. The half giant did make the save after a couple turns on the hold person, but before he could do anything, Bardock was able to put it on him again, which was great because if he hadn't been held, this battle probably would have sucked for us because I'm pretty sure he had multi-attack and everybody was hurting. Well, half the party, because I'm pretty sure Bardock was doing alright and I was only down about 5 hit points, so could have survived a while, but it was concerning for 2 of them. Once we put the half giant down, it was pretty quick to get rid of the rest of the silt runners. And then we released the drivers and said, you know, we've got Crodlu, we can bring you back to Tyr. They said they'd rather go to Alterac because they could buy another kank there, and because they had a merchant pass to get in the city, that meant that we could go in and explore without having to pay a gold piece each. It didn't take us too long to get back to the city, but when we were coming up towards where the mercenaries were, there was trouble a-brewing because the mercenaries were being attacked by some Githyanki raiders. We made a joke that we should help the mercenaries kill the raiders and then kill the mercenaries and blame the raiders, and then we'd be able to enter the city without paying. But in the end, we just helped the mercenaries and didn't kill them afterwards. When the battle was over, the mercenaries were like, hey, thanks for your help, 1 GP each. But fortunately, because we did have the caravan with us, they produced a scroll, which actually had writing on it, which is not very typical in Dark Sun, and they let us through. But then we got up to the actual gates of Alterac, and there was a guy there who looked at Salantithius and was like, hey, cast magic missile. And because it's Dark Sun and magic is kind of foreboding, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, cast magic missile. I was like, and so I like took my dagger and I threw it. I'm like, is that it? And eventually he was like, listen, I'm not letting you in unless you can prove you're not a defiler. And I'm like, this person cast magic and this person cast magic. Why are you singling out the pug? But I cast magic. Obviously I'm not a defiler. And he led us into the city. Now, Alterac is different from pretty much anything we've ever seen. First of all, they have words, which sounds kind of weird, but in a pretty illiterate city like Tyr, where everything is depicted in pictographs, to see actual writing was definitely something new. We looked around briefly, but it was getting pretty late at night for us, so we decided to end our session in Alterac, and next session we can start off buying cool things like tattoos and books. Also, I think it'll be funny if our other 2 party members join us for the next session, because if they come to the city, they're going to have to each pay a gold to get in. Haha. We did, however, talk about buying a forging kit and then forging one of those scrolls so that we can get in for free whenever we want, so we'll see if that happens. So that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed watching. If you have missed any of the past episodes, feel free to check out the links below. If you want to be notified when I post these, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.